Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, The Average Joe. My name is Joe and I am just an Air Force dad who loves to play video games. Let's jump right into this video. Today I'm going to be going over how to set up PaulWorld dedicated server from beginning to end. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go into Steam. So this particular version will be for Steam. Once you're in Steam, you'll notice, and my particular setup doesn't look as probably the same as everybody else's, but to be able to see the PaulWorld dedicated server, you'll need to go under Games, click under Tools, and then PaulWorld dedicated server will come up. Now, I did want to do this from scratch from the very beginning, so I haven't downloaded it yet. So first thing we're going to do is go onto the PaulWorld dedicated server and then click Install. So once this is installed, we'll get started. I'll go ahead and pause the video for now until the video is completed, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, now that PaulWorld is done installing, there's so many other videos that I've seen that go into this. So there's different versions you can do. I believe there's something called Steam CMD that you can do, and there's a lot of manual installations that you can do. This one, I prefer this method better, especially if you're using Steam. So once the dedicated server is completed, the easiest thing to do is to go into the PaulWorld dedicated server, right click, go under Manage, and go to Browse Local Files. Once you browse the local files, you'll see you have all the files here. The most important file you need to look at as of now is called the default PaulWorld settings INI. So I'm going to open this with Sublime. For some reason it's not showing on here, so let's open that up. Go under More Apps. Click. Let's see. I don't see it in here. So for now, we'll just open it up with Notepad. So once you're in Notepad, you'll see everything in here, the configuration files. This is basically all the files that you need when you're setting up the dedicated server. It'll have player damage rate, all kinds of different things. You don't want to edit anything in here. There's only one thing that I'm going to go in and change once we paste this into a different program. So the thing, basically, we're just going to, from where it says script pal, we're going to copy this. And then I'm going to bring it into a program that I like to use. It's called Sublime. So let's minimize this window, go into a program I like to call Sublime. Let's open that up and then paste the information that we just had into the editor. So I'm going to go into View, and I'm going to do word wrap so we can see the entire text. And then once you're in here, there's a lot of information in here, but honestly, the only thing that I've been able to notice that really matters is going to be the PaulWorld server name. So right inside of here where it says PaulWorld server, you want to go in and change it to whatever you want. So I'm going to change this to the Oasis. The server description, you don't really have to put anything into there. Under admin password, just put whatever password will work for you. And then server password, I've noticed that whenever you create a server password, it causes problems. This part right here is probably one of the most important parts, and we'll go over to this a little bit later, is the public port. So this basically allows the PaulWorld to be, for other players to be able to play on your server specifically. It's basically like a doorway to open up and allow people in. Now, the public IP is very important. Now, all the tutorials that I've watched, it doesn't actually show you this. A lot of it just basically people would say to copy this, paste it, and it ends up not working. So for this one, you're going to want to go into your onto Google or whatever you want to use, and then you're going to look up your specific IP address. Once you get your IP address, you'll plug that in here. And then once you plug your IP in, there's other settings you can use. I haven't had to use any of these settings so far. So let's get this IP address and then plug that in. All right, so let's plug that in here. Paste that in. Okay, now there's one other setting I want to go over while we're still in here. Now, I've noticed once this dedicated server has been created, the egg hatch time, for some reason, is set to, I believe, 0.75. Now, that makes it where your pals take like 35 hours to hatch, which is absolutely ridiculous. So I did some testing with it and found out that if you set it to zero point 0.1, that's exactly the same as what it would be if you were playing the normal Palworld. So inside of here, under the settings, you're going to look for, let's see here, where is it? Um, it's basically going to be under egg hatch, I believe. So let's take a look here. Okay, yeah. So under the PAL egg default hatching time, it's set to 72. So you want to go in and change this to 1. I wouldn't mess with any other settings in here, especially if you want to have the actual real gaming experience. Because obviously you can go in and tweak a bunch of these and mess with what you can do, as far as, your HP generation, stamina, and stuff like that. But to have the real, to be able to play the game and have a good time and play it as it was designed, that's what I would do. And actually, there is one more thing. If under the server description, you can just put whatever you want. You can put fun with friends. That way, people know what it is, I guess. So yeah, so once you do that, we're going to save this file. So we're going to save all the information in here. We're going to copy it, and then we're going to go back into Steam again. So we're going to open back up Steam. Oop. Let's see. Let's close Sublime. And then we're going to go back into PaulWorld dedicated server, manage, browse local files, and then we're going to go under where it says PAL. So we're going to click PAL. Oh, I apologize. Let's go back. Okay, and there is one thing that I forgot. So before you paste that file, you'll actually have to launch the PaulWorld dedicated server at least one time. And for me, I just click on the first option, play PaulWorld dedicated server, click play, and then this will bring up, a screen, and then it's going to bring up settings. So if it's done correctly, you should be getting a setting breakpad mini dump AP ID, and then it'll give you a number. So once we have that, let's go ahead and minimize that. And then now the information that we paste or copied from that default INI, we're going to go in back into and stop the server. Once the server stopped, we're going to go back into it, and the information that we just copied, we're going to put into the file, into that specific file area. I'll show you exactly where it's going to go. All right, so now that we have it open, we're going to go under PAL, saved, config, Windows Server, and then we're going to find what's called PalWorld Settings INI. So that file is not going to be there until you launch the server first. That's something to keep in mind. That's important to remember because it won't show up yet until you actually open the file. So, or once you start the server for the first time. So now we're going to go into PaulWorld Settings. We're going to open this again. It's going to open a notepad, which is totally fine. And then we're going to paste the stuff that we did in Sublime. And this is all of the settings we created. It's going to have the server name, the server description, the admin password. This is going to be important for later if you ever want to do any settings within the game. And I'll be showing this later in different video as far as how the admin password works. Because I will be doing a video on from beginning to end, like, beginner's guide kind of thing. And then I'm going to go over this as soon as we're done here with this part, to go over how to set it up. Now, every router is going to be set up differently, so I'm just going to show my specific one since I had trouble with mine, but some people may have a different router that they use, so that you'll have to look that up on Google to see what works best for you. So once we have this information in, we're just going to go click Save and then close this. Now, once we got here, it should be good to go. All you have to do is launch the server again, and then you'll be able to start playing Palworld. Now, I do want to go over a few things when it comes to the dedicated server. You have to be very, very careful when you're setting up the information. If there's even one line missing within the code that you've pasted over, it could cause a lot of issues with it. It may still run, but you may have issues with doing certain things within the game. So just be mindful of that when you're creating a dedicated server. So now, once you have that, you're actually going to go to Palworld and you're going to click play. And now we're going to wait for Palworld to load. All right. So Palworld's loaded. Now, once you have Palworld loaded, the way that you will have other team members join you is you'll go under Join Multiplayer Game, and you're going to go into right down here. And for you, you don't have to change anything. If you're the one hosting the server, this information down here is completely fine. But if you have others that are going to join you, this is where you would need to change information. So what you would put here, I'm just going to put a generic IP address, but you could just do 192.168.1.1. And basically what goes here into this slot here is going to be your whoever's hosting the server, that's going to be their IP address. Now, it's going to be their public IP address. A lot of things get confused when people go into IP config, look it up, see what their IP address is. No, this is your public IP address. That's what's going to go here. Now, I actually am going to go into how to set it up on a router as well, because before you can even allow anybody to come in, you have to remove it from or you have to add an exception to the firewall. That's the most important thing. I spent hours trying to figure out why I couldn't get friends to play. And I have a software called Avast, and Avast will literally, no matter how many exceptions you create, will not let PaulWorld communicate or allow others to come in through the outside. So I had to completely pause it while I play because it was not allowing people. So that's the number one thing you need to do is you need to go into your Windows settings and look up and see how to add it to your Windows firewall. Once you do that, you're going to go, for me, I have a software called Eero that I use. So in Eero, you're going to want to go to, unfortunately, they only have an app. There is no online version of it. So if you're using Eero, I have Frontier. So, and I just have the Eero, which is it's called the Eero Pro 6E. That's what I'm currently using. Now, what I do is I go in to the app, and I'll be posting it up on the screen so you can see it. But I go into the app, and once you're in the app, you're going to go into settings. Once you're in settings, you're going to go to network settings. And then once you go to network settings, under network services, there's going to be an option called reservations and port forwarding. Once you get to reservations and port forwarding, you're going to basically, under IPv4 reservations and port forwarding, you're going to add your actual IP address. That can be done through IP config. You'll look and see which internet you're using, what your IP address is through IP config. Make sure you're using the one that's under IPv4. That will give you exactly what you need for the port forwarding. Once you do that, it's going to ask you to nickname it, add the IP address. Make sure your IP address and your MAC address is the same. You're going to look for the device that you're using when you do the IP reservation forwarding. And then once you do that, you're going to click on port forwarding, and you're going to add the information, the port name, the port or port range. So for this instance, we're going to be using 8211, and then you're going to want to click UDP. I haven't had any luck using TCP and UDP, but that's what I've done. That's how I set it up. So basically, once you set that up and you have the once you have the port forwarding set up with your router and allow traffic for users from the outside to come in, all they have to do is put that in here and set it up that way. Put the IP address here, click connect, and if you've done everything correctly, and everything's plugged in the proper places, this will load PaulWorld. So if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. Please, if you can, smash that like button, click the subscribe button, and click the notification bell so you can see anytime I upload a new video. I thank you for watching my video, and I hope to see you again.